Stupid YouTube does not have any way to adjust anything while you're actually in the stream. So somehow a button got clicked, it got on the wrong camera, and guess what? I had to completely end the stream just to switch cameras. So I got to wait for everyone to get back on here. If everyone will please show up again. Everyone log in. Let me know that you're there. Hey, Mr. Lodak, how's it going? Yes, stupid YouTube. It would be nice if there was a little dashboard there that said, I want to switch camera, switch microphone, something like that. But yep. Hi, Jacob. Unfortunately, for some bizarre reason, they don't seem to think anyone ever needs to do anything at any time when they're on the live stream. The video is smaller than usual.
Camera maybe zoomed out more or something.
That I have no idea. You can put your cursor on the video, press Control, and then hit your scroll button, and that should change things a bit. Hello, Clifford. How's it going? Yeah, with YouTube, of course, there's like, nothing you can really do with anything. So crazy. So anyhow, hey, Wolfman. Oh, let a few more people show up here since I had to change it right at the last second because I don't know what I clicked on. I meant to click go live, and instead it switched me to something else. Yep, flying solo today. That rascal Jim, he's like working or something. They apparently got the funding and everything to try and make this project of his go quicker. And so he's in the field supervising people. They're staking claims, taking samples, doing mapping, trying to get everything they can done before the winter season comes in. They've got a lot to do. So he's working his ass off out in the field. And that's, I wonder what's happening. Little one, can you check and see if my other stream is still on or something?
I can try.
Okay, because if I try and use that computer there, weird things are known to happen.
Grab my tablet and check it out there.
Okay.
Give me a second here.
Eva's getting on it right now. So yeah, I'll be flying solo on the mining stuff. And of course, I really didn't do much mining stuff in the last week or so because first of all, I had the truck that was broke that I had to fix. And secondly of all, I had Eva that was broke and needed to be fixed.
Hi, everybody.
And there you hear her in the background there.
I will come show you the wreckage in a minute. But I will not be doing a tinfoil hat report probably.
Okay, so I'm showing only one person here, although I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wolfman says hi to you, little one.
I have you on your current stream.
Okay.
You should have two people showing now, me and somebody else.
I don't know. I got the people who've checked in are Wolfman, Truth Seeker, Clifford Walker, Robert's Happenings, Mr. Lodak. But yet I'm showing on my other screen there are only two people on.
Yeah.
Truth Seeker says, hey, Eva, a bunch of thumbs up. So.
All I'm seeing is 3 watching now, but I can't see comments for whatever reason on my YouTube.
Yes, she does sound good. I was very relieved when I heard her after the surgery because it was an hour after visiting hours were over at the hospital there. I wasn't allowed to see her after the surgery until the next day. Oh my God. So
This is a drain. It goes in there. There's swelling and disgusting shit. Okay.
So anyhow, hey Jimmy, how's it going? Oh, Clifford is from South Africa. South Africa. But anyhow, it was extremely reassuring to hear her voice, because we really didn't have any idea how much damage they were going to have to do, and I'm quite gratified at how quickly she seems to be bouncing back. Of course, this surgeon was supposedly the best one in the state of Montana, so that was. If anyone could do the job right, he was supposed to be the one. And Gold Panner says hi to everyone. And of course, Jimmy Robertson says hi to everyone, including you, little one. So I really, on, what was it? Wednesday evening? I think it was. I went out to the ranch, switched the batches of ore in the cement mixer. Truth Seeker says, all okay, you'll do just fine, no problem. I'm pretty confident of that now, Truth Seeker. And then today I got out to the ranch and switched batches of ore again. But that's basically all the mining I've really done. I did get some results back from the assay lab. The pregnant pond was showing about 54% of the approximate grade of the ore, which, considering all the dilution and everything, is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Hello, Smoking. Really? Founder of the Gold Reef, huh? Wow. That would be interesting. I probably knew at one time how they actually found those reefs way down deep there around Johannesburg. Man, that's something. Yep. The world keeps getting weirder and weirder. I'm just glad that Eva's actually had her surgery, because with all the talk of mandates and this and that and the other, and one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is that there's a significant number, as in tens of percent, depending upon where it is, like 20-30% of medical workers say that they'll quit rather than get vaxxed. And we're already straining the system, from what I understand, not so much because of COVID cases as it is just during last year, a lot of people got laid off because nothing, elective was being done out of fear of transmission. And so, if you're not doing elective surgeries, which is a lot, I mean, things like heart stents and cancer treatments were considered elective. I guess I'm lucky I needed an aorta. I guess that wasn't elective. But I was just worried that, if they try to do that too soon, that she wouldn't be able to get her surgery. This could cause a great deal of disruption. So be aware, if there's anything medical you need done, try and get it done quick. And Chris and I are working on the resin recovery from solution. And I should be getting some resin in the next week or so. They usually require some sort of pre-treatment to basically activate them straight from the factory state. And then we'll start doing a few real quick tests on solution. Yeah, Truth Seeker. I agree. I'm glad it's done. Hey, Gold Miner. So we'll be starting with tests to see which resins recover the gold the best, and other tests where we determine which what's the easiest way to get it out of which resin. While the technology is relatively well understood, the big guys have all the money, time, and technicians in the world to go for maximum efficiency, whereas small-time guys need to have minimal capital expenditure and maximum simplicity. I mean, I want something that's basically as easy to do as baking a cake. And that it would be a lot easier, for example, if we don't have to pressure cook the resin, which is one of the methods used to get gold out of the resin. Chris, who has a lot more knowledge about the theory of these things, etc., is pretty confident that we have several avenues that should work. And the idea is to try and refine kind of the simplest, cheapest, easiest to do methodology, and then make that kind of the standard procedure, unless some other ore down the road makes it untenable for some reason. Gold Miner, you'd have to ask Chris. He's the one doing that research right now. And as a matter of fact, if everyone wait a second, I'll just call him up and see if he's frolicking out there. I know he's been kind of busy in a couple of ways. See if he's actually available right now or not. Hey, Chris. You fell asleep. Well, I'm on live right now, so everyone just heard that. Okay. Gold Miner says, are you using precision periodic resins? I mean, that's a brand name, apparently. Precision periodic. Any idea? He said the precision periodic. If you might want to make a note. Okay. Alrighty. Take care. So apparently Chris had taken a nap and was still busily engaged in resting his cerebral cortex, and we interrupted his endeavors there. But thank you, Gold Miner. Hopefully you'll make a note on that or whatever. Again, he's more knowledgeable than I. I don't really have a lot of, I got to control this, I got to control that in me. And so if somebody seems to be much better qualified than I to do something, I'm perfectly happy to let them do it. It's like that head gasket. If my stepson or son-in-law had been here and he wanted to jump on, it's like, okay, fine, I'll hand you tools. Absolutely. Much I much prefer being the number two guy when it's something fairly novel. So say Chris is doing that research, and I know we're going to try several different types of resins and the various trying to determine the loading factors, how well they regenerate, and how easy they are to strip, especially not using highly complex chemistry or dangerous chemistry or extreme conditions like pressure cookers. Yeah, Mr. Virtue, as a matter of fact, she's already been on the video once. That was her coughing in the background there. Okay, gold miner. You can always just comment on any of my videos, down the road or whatever. But right now I'm fairly ignorant on that, and that's George. Of course, YouTube wasn't playing nice. YouTube is weird. And Eva is doing well. She's recovering nicely. We may actually be out in the field this weekend. She's of course not going to be doing anything except kicking back and relaxing. But our ore stockpile is getting pretty low, and by this weekend it's going to be essentially gone. So the plan was to head up and get some more ore, and to do that we'll need the quad, so she can actually ride up to the overlook where she can get cell phone reception and stuff like that, and she may want to do that. I don't know. I don't want to overstress her, but I'm a soft touch when it comes to Eva. If she wants something, I try and make her happy. So we'll see what we can do. Depends on several factors, but I just don't see where I'm going to be able to avoid that trip very long at all. If I have to, the original plan is to meet the boss and his son up there. So we'll have 3 guys.
We're going there.
And I know his son has some event to attend that may complicate the issue. So I'm not exactly sure what the schedule is going to be, who's going to be there, whether it's just going to be me or me and the boss or me and the boss and his son. Hard to tell. Whatever it is, we'll make it work one way or another. But with the quad, that'll allow Eva to get up to where the view and the reception is good without having to exert herself. We also have to be in Missoula on Monday. So that's another constraint that we'll have to take into account. But yeah,
We're not be in Missoula till the 20th.
That would be Monday.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Looked on the schedule. It's already the 13th, little one. This is Monday the 13th. Add 7. What do you get? Monday the 20th. Absolutely. A week from today, we got to be back in Missoula. So, and it was kind of funny. I was watching a thing from Nick Zentner today on Glacial Lake Missoula and stuff, and he's right there at University of Montana and looking at the hillside that I was looking at a few days ago. How are we recovering our ore? Right now, we're recovering waste dumps. One of the waste dumps by the ore bin, so it might be like an ore waste dump or whatever. Not sure. It has a fairly good grade. By screening it, we get an upgrade, and also by screening it, we don't need to jaw crush it. So that's usually what we do. We'll screen it, put it in buckets, and haul it back to the ranch. Once we've essentially mined that out, we have another dump there. The grade isn't nearly as good, half or less the grade. There's more of it there, but then the other option is to start going down the middle decline there, and I'll have to do a little retimbering and take a little bit of bottom, kind of reshape it, and start installing my ladder track system and testing it out. You guys will all enjoy that when I get that. We'll see how smoothly it works. I just figured there's no sense. If you need a track, why isn't a ladder also? You know, makes sense. Also kind of bolt together so that you can recover it later if you wish. It's pretty simple stuff. So we'll see how that works. I'm not sure, Jimmy. We can talk about it offline. I presume this is mining expertise, since you've got all the construction expertise. By the way, how is that impact mill working? Have you done much more work with it? And another thing I found on my mill over here, I was getting a ticking sound, at times. And I found that the rotor had drifted in the bearings a little bit, and it was actually striking the cover plate. So if you're getting that, whacking noise, check your cover plate and see if you've got some grooves on that. In terms of a couple of days of work, I presume we could arrange that without too much trouble, but I don't know. I say we'll just talk it over. I mean, you're close enough. We need to get Eva a little more stable here, but that should only take a week or two, and then it'll just be how I'm working around my other stuff. And with the exception of actually redoing the middle decline, it's pretty much getting ore and doing more testing there. And some of that just takes time. I mean, the gold only dissolves so fast. Another thing I need to get going here is another agitation tank. That cement mixer, well, it does a fine job, only does 100 pounds at a time. So I'll need to start sourcing a new agitation tank setup. And let's see, let me write that down. And I want something that'll be doing 500 to 1,000 pounds at a whack. That way, it's a pretty good upgrade in terms of capacity, and it wouldn't be too difficult. I'm thinking that would probably be about the next thing. Yeah, come up with some good questions, Smoking. Jim is out there like working in the field, actually doing work or something, the slacker. And so I've thrown into this thing, and of course, my problem, not near big enough, Goldstream. I'm looking for like a conical bottom tank, around 4 feet in diameter, about 6-7 feet tall, and see what we can get there, and then use either a Pachuca style agitation or just a slurry pump type agitation. Yeah, Jimmy, it sure is. And it's tough to get labor too. Over here in Helena, Taco John's is offering a $600 signing bonus. That's the last one I saw. When we were in Missoula, there was a Taco John's across the street from the hospital. Good, I can probably get breakfast burritos or whatever. They were completely closed due to lack of personnel. There was a sign, closed temporarily. Yeah. And Goldstream, if you just do it properly, they'll never know. And then there was a Chinese restaurant at the Lions Inn next door that was closed. It was kind of frustrating too, because I was on west side, north side downtown, northwest side of I don't know. But anyhow, we're at one end of downtown, and all the fast food restaurants were at the other end of downtown. And we're talking almost a mile. So it was a fair distance. Hate driving the truck, just a little short, something like that. Luckily, there was a grocery store, a block away, kind of like a Safeway. And they had typical deli sort of stuff. So they had some nice fried chicken, Chester's, I think it was. But yeah. So I ate a lot of fried chicken for a couple of days. That's a possibility, Jimmy. But by the time you get all the maintenance issues and mobilizing and this and stuff, a tank, if you had like a 4-foot diameter fiberglass tank, 6-7 feet tall, that's not very heavy, or a poly tank, and then a 2-inch pump, that's real mobile, and it probably not that expensive. Hey, Jake. Jake's on, little one. Do you want to show him you're okay?
For everyone who hasn't seen the damage yet, oof. See? Funny scar, drain in neck, stuff coming out of neck into bottle. That's basically it at the moment. It could be worse.
Well, inside the mouth, there's a bit of rearrangement that's been done too.
Yeah, but I can't open my mouth wide enough to show it. I haven't even seen it myself. So.
Goldstream, not necessarily a bad concept, although looking more for an open top tank. But if you had one of those cylindrical round end ones, yeah, that might work. We'll do a lot of looking around and see what's available. I also noticed he has out in the boneyard there, he's got a trommel drum frame. But anyhow, so we also saw somebody had like an old cement truck drum and everything that they were using for blending soils, but it was a little more expensive than he wanted. It wasn't terribly expensive, but again, mobility is an issue. To move something like that, now you got to have a piece of heavy equipment to hoist it, or you got to drag it on a flatbed. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Goldstream. There's probably something exactly what we want, relatively modestly priced. Yeah, 10,000 gallon tanks. I'm not sure if they're structurally adequate for that. Yeah, a paddle mixer or whatever works fine for small stuff, although when you're trying to do it for hours at a time, you have to have a drive mechanism. Probably a drill press would work, Smoking says, "Hi, Eva. You look better than I thought you would. Does not matter. You are a beautiful person on the inside, and that's what counts." Well, I agree. I was more worried about her ability to speak and everything, knowing that they were doing stuff inside her mouth too, and especially some on her tongue. So when she called and was able to enunciate clearly, that was quite a relief. As a matter of fact, I was apparently more stressed than I even knew. I've learned how to detach in the past. And when the surgeon called me up and told me the results, and then later when Eva called me up, I was pretty frazzled. I'll tell you what, it was. I could tell there was a lot of energy built up inside because when it went, it's a good thing I didn't have to drive anywhere. You know. Outboard motor. You could use a trolling motor. One of those would probably be about the right size. And as long as it didn't stop, it should work okay. You may, I would imagine the seals are going to go pretty quick. I don't think they're really designed for that, but maybe not. They may have some pretty good seals. And of course, the propeller is going to wear out a lot quicker than what it's originally scheduled to. But again, those are pretty cheap. I don't think we're going to need anything that big, Chris. I'm thinking just a 2-inch trash pump should be more than adequate. Yeah, that would actually probably work, Smoking. A big cheese tank with an agitator. Yep. But that's exactly the kind of thing we're looking at. But inexpensive. And again, we could use an air pump like for a jacuzzi to do a Pachuca style agitation, or we could use water agitation. And this is a good question, Chris. What, in your opinion, in the dissolution phase of the chemistry, is oxygen a plus, a minus, or a neutral? Because if oxygen is a minus, then we would probably want to focus on a slurry pump and agitation system. Whereas if oxygen was a positive, we'd probably want to go with a Pachuca. I know that with cyanide, oxygen is a positive. So if you could answer that. Folks, when you're dissolving gold with cyanide, oxygen is critical to the dissolution. No oxygen, no dissolution occurs. Okay, it's a critical co-component. And that's why when they do a Merrill Crowe cementation with zinc, they deoxygenate the solution, then add the zinc. That prevents the redissolution of the gold once it's precipitated. Okay. So I'm thinking in that case, probably set up a slurry pump with an intake high and a distributor low to set things swirling. I did a tank decades ago, about 1981, 82, where we were slurrying lime. And we had a four-banger diesel pushing a 4-inch pump. And we would put so much water in the tank, forklift a bin of quicklime on top, start up the pump, and at the bottom, all we had was as I recall, it was a standpipe with 4 elbows sticking out, and then at 90-degree angles. So looking at it from the top, you'd have one pointing this way, one that way, one that way, one that way, and it would get that, I don't know, 6-8 foot diameter tank, 10, 12 feet high. It was swirling pretty good. Yep. So if we want to avoid too much oxygen, then we might want to do the slurry pump. Yeah, I'm thinking putting the pump high up on the intake up on the side. The idea is, in my ideas, you have a particular level of liquid that with no solids in it, this is the amount of liquid you need for a full charge. And then put the pump below that. And then as you add solids from the grinding circuit, then it will just increase the level up to the, you'll have a spot marked and say, okay, this is a full charge. Yeah. And it's really not that hard to make the conversion one way or the other. So we could even try both or whatever. Basically, it's your opinion that excess oxygen is going to cause too much reagent consumption, I presume. The other thing you could do is you just have a jet up higher that sprays down so that the solution is going through air. And that would also aerate, as it hits the water surface, as it goes through the air, you could gain oxygen that way. I sure am not, John. Boundary layer pump designs. You know what he's talking about, Chris? I don't. Say just a simple slurry pump should work. Okay, I figured he might. I don't think we need to get that far, John. I say, oxygen is not killer. It's just, something like a sewage pump, assuming the impeller is designed to handle fairly abrasive solids. The thing is, the slurry has got fairly small particles, but they're going to tend to be quite abrasive, like sand. And as such, you want a pump that'll handle that. Quite often, that means rubber lined. That may sound funny, but rubber is often tougher than steel in an abrasive environment. Strange but true. Because the stuff bounces off and it kind of indents and comes off instead of actually gouges. So I say it should be relatively straightforward by keeping the intake of the pump fairly high. Then the larger solids particles will generally be excluded. I don't know, Chris, to say we may be able to get by with something that, let's say just a trash pump, especially as we're not going to be pumping much in the way of large solids. It's going to be more, just a lot of fine solids, the equivalent of fine sand and silt as opposed to coarse sand or grit. I don't know how well the balls would work on the with the fins. I don't think you'd need to worry about it for agitation. A cement truck would do just fine. And so I think that it would be fine. It's kind of like overkill. Will the sledgehammer drive the nail? Yep. But, do you want it? Chris is apparently familiar with him, John. But another thing, they do make concrete pumps too, which are more abrasive than anything I've got. So I'm sure it can be done. Don't know what the optimum build is. A lot of times in a pump, things like the seals become the real tricky part, But another thing is how long does a cheap pump last? If the if your cost per ton is $1 per ton in new pumps, who cares? If you're trashing a pump every 2 days, that's probably pretty expensive. If it lasts a month and then you got to replace it with another one, and it only costs you $300, well, that's $10 a day. If you're doing 10 tons, that wouldn't be terribly expensive. We'll just have to see. I'm thinking a trash pump or something like that. Something that's just designed to take some abrasion and uses the right materials and design to deal with that. Would probably be adequate, because again, we're not looking at sending gravel or coarse sand through it, just fine sand and silt. Shouldn't be a huge technological issue. Yeah, that'll happen. I mean, basically it's just a ball mill. My thought is, in a cement mixer, you're going to be doing a lot of wear on the fins in the mixer. Argonaut, yes, we do have a Harbor Freight here. It's kind of hard to tell what they have in stock. Yeah, you could use an Archimedes screw, especially if you had like a center tube down there and just have an auger down it and pulling up. That would also work. Yeah, there's a number of different ways of doing it, or just having a shaft with a propeller on the bottom. Yeah, I've thought of a number of different ways that we could do it. But in terms of Harbor Freight, yeah, I really wish they had the 6.5 horsepower motors in stock, because mine's getting kind of old and I'd like to change it out, but I've got a warranty, but they don't have any pump. I mean, they don't have any engines, so I can't warranty it out. Kind of annoying. But yeah, semi-trash pump, again, something like that. If it's cheap enough and it lasts long enough, even if it's, becomes a wear item, not a problem. Just, budget it in. Post hole digger, yeah. Say that sort of thing. Could do just fine also. Again, there's a lot of different ways you can do it that are not terribly technologically challenging. So we'll just have to try various things, see what's similar. Gold miner, I don't know. My natural reaction is avoid anything fancy except for uncoated steel, because it tends to precipitate things. But Chris probably has some information on there. Yeah, I agree with Chris. There's many ways to skin that cat, and some of it is simply what's the simplest, cheapest, easiest, sort of thing to do. A pump with a little distributor and stuff, pretty low tech stuff. Yeah, I mean, if that's the size you need and it comes out cheap and it's running good, yeah. And yeah, that's another thing too, as Chris knows. I mean, we're talking pretty highly viscous liquids compared to water. We're talking these slurries. It's not quite syrup, but it's probably more in the neighborhood of a cream soup. And it's a lot thicker than water. It's not necessarily the cyanide with the aluminum, but the gold tends to precipitate on the aluminum. Another thing too is anything that the abrasion on aluminum is going to be much faster. And when you have those kind of energies involved, sometimes the chemistry gets really active in the violence of the impeller. Okay, and Chris says, yeah, the hydroxide will eat the aluminum. Yeah, it would. Especially if you were using sodium hydroxide, man, that just it's violent. And it generates hydrogen gas too. But in an impeller type situation, the energy of the impeller, the violence with which it is striking the liquids, possible cavitation issues, especially in a viscous liquid, you can have some weird things happen in an impeller. It's strange. But I'm a big fan of keep it simple. Regular iron, not even galvanized, because the zinc can precipitate stuff and it can get dissolved and contaminate your solution. Not that it's a huge issue, but it's not a good issue. And you might as well just use either PVC or cast iron, or standard iron pipe, black iron. Keep it simple. Your plastics are pretty much safe. Rubber would be safe. Standard iron is safe with these solutions, and with the gold, it's not going to precipitate it. You want to try and avoid aluminum, zinc, any of the more reactive metals like that. And in the case of cyanide, you want to avoid organics too. You don't want to get leaves and wood and stuff like that in your circuit too. That'll tend to do preg robbing. But that's something over the next 1 to 2 weeks. I want to get a plan, get it approved. Poly pipe, yeah. Yeah, that would make sense, gold miner. Would work for some leaching circuits, not others. But it'd be a lot better than galvanized. There's ways of joining the various pipes, different kind of compression fittings. In terms of the cement mixer, it does tend to stop and solidify a bit, but it restarts easily and goes back going. Now, the negative is it's a belt drive, so if either the motor or the belt couldn't handle the torque required to get it moving, then you'd have an issue. But it's not a problem. Yes, if your pump intake is down low, that would be a problem. If you have a distributor down low, but your intake is up high, of course, the pump's not going to have any problem. You're just going to make sure that your jets don't get plugged, and you'd probably want to put something on them so that, like a collapsible tube, so that as it's blowing stuff out, it's open, and then as it stops, it collapses down so that stuff can't come back into the pipe and solidify. And but that is an excellent question, especially something like a Pachuca tank. That might be a serious issue, because instead of having jets of liquid impacting the solid material and blowing it apart, you just have a suction trying to pull it up the tube. If the solid's packed in the bottom, that could be an issue. Another thing around here is we're looking at the possibility of using photovoltaics, in which case we might want to deliberately start and stop to minimize our energy consumption. One of the tests I want to do is a bottle roll where I have the same material, same solution, 2 bottles, One of them rolls continuously for 24 hours. The other one only rolls like 5 minutes every hour for 24 hours, and see what the difference in recovery is. Because if you just need to stir it occasionally, you use a whole lot less energy. And when you're out in the middle of nowhere, that can be very useful. And so that's, my thought there. I like the idea of a water-based or liquid-based pump as opposed to an air pump for that reason. It is much more resilient to stopping and starting. Even if you plan on running it 24/7, sooner or later it's going to stop when you don't want it to. If restarting it is a major headache, then it's a major headache. So prefer not to do that. Right now, the cement mixer is on a timer. It runs for a half hour at 10 o'clock in the morning and a half hour at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And overall recovery seemed to be pretty good, although in many cases, first of all, a lot of the recovery is happening on the tailings pad. And courage, yes. If you let it sit for 55 minutes, the sand will tend to pack on the bottom. But if you have, let me get a clipboard here. And a bigger marker so that everyone can see. Okay, if you have let's see, can we see that? Not very well. Holy crap, getting the light right sucks. If you have your slurry here and it stops, then it's going to tend to settle. And in a relatively short period of time, you'll have a fairly solid, in terms of high density material down here, but it's still going to be just wet sand. If you're sucking in liquid from up here, sending it, it's hard to do backwards, to this distributor here, which has a number of jets so that it sets up a circular motion, it'll blast that sand. There'll be more than enough pressure to just blow it apart and get it moving. So that wouldn't be a problem. And yes, on the other hand, if you had a Pachuca tank, wow, this is hard to do, with an airlift here, then this would solidify and there wouldn't be anything to really break it up. And that would concern me a bit. And the thing is, while agitation is ideal and continuous agitation is ideal, the reactions we're talking about are not instantaneous. So if you agitate it and then stop, the chemicals are sitting there on the surface of the gold particles working on them. And you have diffusion as kind of a limiting factor and stuff. But with the real small size gold particles that we're dealing with here, that might not be a big issue. We need to check it out and see, because that's an important criterion. So I should probably get that going this week. And the nice thing about that particular test, it only takes 2 assays to figure it out. At the end of 24 hours, you take the sample out of each jug, and see how close they are to each other. You know, if intermediate agitation gives you 80% of the recovery of continuous agitation with only 5% of the energy, that's a significant consideration. If, on the other hand, it only gives you 10% the recovery, well, that's not too good. But again, these are the sort of things, don't think, test. Don't guess, test. Because I will guarantee you different ores are going to act differently. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by a gravity pump, Lincoln. So I can't answer that. The one I've got, with a turning drum, it reliquefies within a couple minutes. Not a problem. Concrete vibrator might work well. On the other hand, it might pack it too. It tends to densify things, so it may have an issue there. I don't think we'll have any problems. The cement mixer has no problems restarting, and I don't think a liquid pump agitation system would have problems restarting. If you had a big propeller type impeller on the bottom, that might have problems restarting. Yep. We could, but you're looking at, for 500 pounds an hour, you'd be looking at 5 cement mixers. Don't know what's the cheapest ones or whatever, but let's assume if you bought them new, about $300 each. So you're looking at about $1,500. And then you're running 5 1-horsepower motors. If you combine it all into one tank, you should be able to get by with a lot less power on a single pump and do it in a single batch. There's also advantages. I had it here. In terms of, I don't intend to use the tank just for mixing in. If here's your tank, wow. Let's see what happens if I do that. Does that make it easier? Yeah, a little bit. If here's your tank, if you put a canvas cover on the top, put it over the sides, and then take a ratchet strap and tie it down, and then bring your dust hose from the impact mill in here, then all you got to do is feed the impact mill. It automatically transfers it to the tank. You got your water here, you got your pump here, and your distributor there. So as you're filling this tank, you've got your dust control there. You've got 5 hours of agitation on the first stuff that went in by the time you get to the 5th hour grinding. If we're doing 500 pounds per tank. Now, Jimmy's mill, it does about 200 pounds an hour. So we could do 1,000 pounds in 5 hours. You can make bigger mills that go faster than that. So the idea is to have this system. It's much simpler. You got one moving part for the agitation right there, that pump. No other moving parts. Whereas with a cement mixer, you have a number of moving parts, a number of motors, etc. If somebody happened to have a half a dozen cement mixers sitting around doing nothing, we'd be happy to try it out. But that's basically the reason we're thinking of that methodology. Put a sprinkler in and do one better. I'm not having problems with dust right now, Chris, if I can get just the right amount. Well, not just the right, but pretty close to the right amount of moisture in the ore. I'm having like zero dust. The problem is it's pretty easy to get a little too much moisture in the ore and get a little packing and sticking and stuff. So I'm still trying to tweak that for optimization. But that's what I was saying. If you needed oxygenation, it would be easy to take output from this pump here, run it up here, and have a spray in here to get your oxygenation. You know, if you needed more oxygen, that would be an easy way of doing it. Again, zero additional moving parts. I love minimizing moving parts because for some strange reason, parts that don't move rarely break. But that's kind of the theory that I'm working on right now. Actually, a friend of mine, Jason De Luisa, on his channel, he went down to Honduras and he actually videotaped actual arrastras working. And that was cool. If you did that, the canvas is going to tend to pack on the bottom with dust, Chris. You know, it's amazing how dust-free this is with just a modest amount of water in the ore. Yep. That's basically what the tank becomes. It just becomes a big cyclone, Lincoln. Exactly. This right here, that fitting would not be coming straight in. You'd put a 90-degree on that, or at least I would. I had a thing here. Kind of like that, and the whole thing becomes a cyclone. You know? And instead of having a center out, just a piece of canvas on there. And exactly, it's just a giant bag filter. Multiple input lines with 2-inch PVC. What would they be doing, Wolfman? You talking air? You talking impact mill stuff? Or whatever? Smoking, you could. That would be called vat leaching. And it's not nearly as quick. If we agitate it for 6 to 12 hours, with this ore, we've already achieved like 80% recovery already. And then from there, we can drain that tank onto the tailings pad. Like currently I'm doing a cement mixer load. Well, we could do 1,000 pounds at a whack too. And then there you get leaching also. That would be more of the vast. That would be for the stuff that's more semi-crystallocked and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly, Wolfman. Although I think a single 2-inch pump with like a cross and 4 short nipples, you know, like 6-inch nipples with 90-degree L's, and then reducer nipples on each end of the 90-degree L's to make kind of nozzles. Yeah, that's exactly what I did on that other tank. Only it was a little bigger. I think it was a 4-inch. I think it was a 4x3 pump there. But and we were also using it. We tapped into that to also run a fire hose so we could spray the slurry on the ore as the trucks dumped it. It was for lime slurry. But yeah, that pump just churned that 8-foot diameter, 12-foot tall tank, no problem. It was spinning like crazy. Absolutely. Yeah, Chris, as I say, I think, you know, just discharge it out the bottom and have, let's say, an intake fitting up high for the pump. You're going to have an inlet for the dust and airflow, and then you'd need some way to fill it, although that could also be through the bottom. You could have 2 different valves and fill it like that. Yep. Yeah, Douglas, a 55-gallon barrel roller probably would, make a. If you had very high grade ore and very low production requirements, that would probably work fine. Absolutely. This gold is so fine, it dissolves so fast under agitation that it's amazing. Yeah, you could probably do that, Chris. I was also thinking of using a second tank of basically the same design as perhaps a barren solution tank. So you could pump your pregnant solution and keep your pregnant pond low, because that stuff's got gold in it. You don't want to lose it. So as soon as it gets in the pregnant pond, you pump it through your recovery system and dump it in the barren solution tank. You adjust the chemistry in there. Good reason to have agitation, And then from there, yeah, you pump it to the other one, put so much in that tank. You put a known quantity of a known chemistry in the agitation tank and then start adding ore. But I was thinking by having an extra tank, you kind of standardize everything. We'll see how much the tanks cost. I'm hoping they're in the neighborhood of $500 or something. But as long as they're not too expensive, it wouldn't be too bad. But you see how that would work, Chris? In the barren tank, you just have the pump reversed. It's sucking out of the bottom of the tank and blowing somewhere else. That's the idea of the tailings pad, Courage. Any gold that's well exposed is probably going to be dissolved in 6 to 12 hours. So the stuff that's not dissolved by then is probably somewhat crystal locked or big chunks or something. When it goes out to the tailings pad and you put a layer of tailings out there, and then tomorrow another layer goes on top of it, and then another layer goes on top of that, and it's all soaking through day after day after day. Now you've got essentially kind of a heap leach with sand on it, and you continue leaching the more resistant gold for whatever reason. I don't know how well an IBC will agitate. Regular IBC is square, which is not ideal, but it may not be a problem. I don't know. I haven't tried agitating a slurry in an IBC. That's an interesting thought, Chris. And just have the jets in the 4 corners. It's got possibilities. Wouldn't be too hard to do. Yeah. It's not a bad idea. An IBC is a very condensed, it's a very compact and space efficient methodology. Where's my little thing here? Slurry density. We get about 3.5 pounds of ore per gallon of slurry. So if we wanted 1,000 pounds, I have a calculator. I think I said 3.5. Yeah. So you'd be looking at about 285 gallons of capacity. Huh. I didn't know they made a 350 gallon IBC. I know they make the, they're easy to move by hand, easy to transport, easy to forklift. I don't know about stacking in terms of just the weight when you put the slurry in it. If you didn't have it all the way full, of course, that's good. You know, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, 260. If you used, let's say 175 out of the 260, you have 612 pounds in an IBC. That has merit because you can get them pretty cheap. Huh. I like the idea. Oh, Thalia. Yeah, as a matter of fact, she's been on a couple of times. She'll probably come on later sometime.
Right here.
Oh, she's coming over, Thalia.
Hi, dude. See? And the drain from the neck, which comes out on Wednesday. So, yeah, it could look a lot worse. I still have no idea what the inside of my mouth looks like because I can't open it wide enough to see.
I wouldn't want to look anyway.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to seeing anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way,
Everybody, note, cheeseburger smoothies are really weird, okay?
cheeseburger soup is one thing. Cheeseburger smoothies are another.
Yeah, Chris. I'll have to talk to my principal. We could probably scrounge one of those up pretty easy. And if we just put 4, boy, the only problem with those things is actually getting inside of them to work because they have a fairly small opening. You know, you can't just drop inside it. Jeff, an IBC is an intermediate bulk container. It's like a cube tank. It has a metal frame grid around it. It's designed to be forklift. They use it for all kinds of liquids, everything from motor oil to milk. I suppose I could cut a hole big enough to drop in it without too much fun. Leave the edges on. That wouldn't be too bad. The problem with continuous flow is inevitably some of the newer stuff gets mixed with some of the older stuff, unless you have something like an Archimedes screw or something like that. So you do lose a little efficiency there as opposed to a batch. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Chris, something like that. I think that would work fine. It's cheap, easy to move around, relatively safe to move around. It's not very fragile. Oh, I like this. I agree. It's worth a shot. I'll have to talk to him tomorrow about that. Jeff, I appreciate that. I think he was talking about you. Jeff Bybee says, wow, you look great. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Boy, it would modularize real well. Now, if you had 10 of them on a trailer and it was flowing from one to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other like that, then yeah, you could have a continuous flow system and not get too much blending between them. And that would work okay. Boy, I like that idea. Who was it came up with that? Was it you, Chris, or was it somebody else? I think it was somebody else. Pretty sure it was somebody else here. Douglas Pohl. Doug, thank you. I really, really like that. It's not ideal physically, but in reality, the advantages are pretty substantial compared to alternatives. And I really, really like it. Thank you very much. Yeah. We could either use one bulkhead fitting on the bottom, probably be the safest thing, and then just a square distributor to keep everything internal. Or you could put 4 bulkhead fittings from the outside and then plumb it on the outside, but then that leaves that plumbing vulnerable. Yeah, they have a drain valve smoking. They're designed to be filled and drained and stuff. No, I haven't, Lincoln. Dust pump. I'm not sure what a dust pump is. Oh, sawdust. Is it like a blower? Yeah, I think they usually come with a bung, although some have a valve. Say it's easy to plumb. Shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, I really like that. I can get started on that quick. Say it's inexpensive, and one of the things you can get IBCs inexpensively. I'm not sure what a brand new cost is on one of those things, but a lot of times, like when they're used for food grade stuff, they're a single use item. You're not allowed to reuse them, and so they get rid of them. And so about $100 seems like a standard kind of price. But let's just take a look here. IBC for sale. Okay, so a brand new 330 gallon IBC tote is $786. If you wanted to fill the valve with any antifreeze, it'd be $2,589. Let's see. Where's a new IBC tote as low as $209? Used $155, and that's somebody who's actually advertising here. You go on to Craigslist or whatever, and probably Montana plastic tanks. Huh. Wow. So anyhow, that's on my schedule tonight. Like a supercharger, a screw blower. Yeah. The pneumatic over-the-road tankers have the same sort of thing. It's like a supercharger, yeah. And they can offload 25 tons of product in less than an hour. Yeah. Harbor Freight sewage pump, then coat with Belzona. What's Belzona, Douglas? Smoking says he finds them for $50 with a quick search. Yeah, but this is Helena. Yeah, exactly, William. That would work good. Again, I wasn't thinking so much of the square because of the, it's not going to stir as easily, but by putting 4 jets, 1 in each corner, that should work okay. And put a collapsible hose on each jet so that if the pump turns off, it just collapses down and prevents it from getting plugged by packed sand. Again, one of the questions is, do you have 4 bulkhead fittings on each corner and exterior plumbing, or do you have like a frame that you just set in there and hook to one bulkhead fitting, or even bring it up from the top? Lots of different options there. Okay. I don't know. A lot of possibilities. But it's pretty easy. Another thing with the IBC, you could, if you used a hose, you could just hang if it was a submersible style semi-trash, trash pump, sewage pump, whatever, you just hang it in the tank. Yeah. Wow. This is what's fun about this job. Well, there's different ways of doing it. Have you ever heard of a pinch valve? When you're doing a number of different things, you can have a valve. Basically, it's a piece of hose, and then there's like a pinch cock. You screw the wheel, and it pinches the hose in between. And by doing that, it works really great for slurries and stuff because the valve mechanism never contacts the liquid inside. Yeah. Say there's fancy ways of doing it and cheap and dirty and throwaway ways of doing it. So the question becomes, in many cases, do you just use disposable parts and replace them often, or spend a lot more money for something you don't replace often? I don't know. We'll see. Yep, it's a pinch valve. It is also used when you don't want to have contact with anything inside the hose. I mean, sometimes there's some interesting chemistry that you don't, it's kind of rough on parts. Another thing is something called a peristaltic pump. And basically what happens there, you have a circular housing. In this case, see that thing there? And it would be a semicircle. This end would be open. And you have a thing here with some rollers on the end. And it turns slowly. And again, you have a hose that comes in here. And then the roller comes down, compresses the hose, runs around here, and then releases the hose. But by then, another 2 rollers have pinched the hose off, so it pushes the stuff through the hose. And again, first of all, you don't have any contact with the pump, so it works well for corrosives and things like that. But it can also work very slowly. You can move very small quantities that you'll see IV valves in a hospital are exactly, that's one kind of a pinch valve. Yep. And Peristaltic pumps, yeah, those IV insulin pumps, those are usually peristaltic pumps because it just has a piece of tubing through it, and then it pushes it through. And by how fast you rotate it, you can vary the delivery with precision at very low delivery volumes. So there's lots of different ways of doing it. A lot of times, if you got a problem, somebody's already fixed it. Somebody's already had the same problem decades ago and has already come up with a solution. Little one, can you cover for just a minute so I can take a break?
Well, I suppose so.
Okay. Ugh.
Hurry back.
No problem.
Howdy, howdy, everybody. No, we don't have to reinvent the wheel smoking, though sometimes it does happen. Hi, Chris. We are looking at our recycling centers here, and we're probably going to be able to find some stuff. I mean, it's just a question of where and when and how much and everything else. You know how that goes. Hey, Wolfman. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they were used to pump chlorine for commercial pools. All kinds of weird stuff gets used. I mean, I just ran into some weird stuff in the hospital. That place was kind of bizarre. Now, I know this is going to sound incredibly amazing to you people, but I'm there in the hospital and I'm trying to explain to them that, first of all, I need to eat a pure, clear liquid diet, which they know, but apparently for them, a clear liquid diet is generally things that are loaded with sugar, which I can't eat. So my list was chicken broth, beef broth, sugar-free jellos. There was orange, red, or green, and artificially sweetened lemonade. And that's fine. What I can't figure out is why it was every single bowl of beef broth I got was burned. How do you burn beef broth? For that matter, how do you burn chicken broth? Because they managed to do that too. It was surreal. It really was surreal. I mean, I tasted this beef broth and I'm like, it's burned. It even smelled burnt. It smelled scorched. And I'm like, you really have to work to burn beef broth. It was surreal. But it was not as surreal as my cheeseburger smoothie today. So I have discovered that the only thing that works well swallowing-wise is things that are smoothie consistency. So I grabbed some beef broth and I grabbed some meat mix and I grabbed some cheese and some sour cream and some eggs and I scrambled it all up together on the stove and turned it into a sort of a really weird soup. But it still had too much texture. I couldn't swallow it. So I tossed this in the blender and I come out with a pot of cheeseburger smoothie that was a rather peculiar shade of yellow. And it smelled really good. And I'm drinking this through a straw. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute here. This actually tastes marginally better than pureed cheeseburgers. And I have no idea why. But it was like, okay, cheeseburger smoothies are about a 5 on my weird scale. I'm contemplating doing this with tuna melt tomorrow, but I'm kind of scared that I will like the result. You know? Egg flour soup, something I hadn't considered, but yeah, probably something along those lines. Basically what I do is I put the beef broth in the pot and then I whip up the eggs and scramble the heck out of them and keep whipping them in the beef broth to make something that is almost, but not quite entirely unlike an egg drop soup. And then I run it through the blender and hope for the best. But that's where we are at the moment. And they're going to get back to me next week when I have my appointment to let me know how long I'm going to be trying to live on this. Because there's this weird thing that happens when you're trying to swallow that's hard to explain, but there's this clicking thingy that goes on. So if it's stiffer than a smoothie, I can't eat it. If it's got any texture or any grains in it that are above smoothie grains, I can't eat them. So yogurt has to turn into a smoothie. It's bizarre. But that's where we are, and now Bear will be back, so I'll turn you over to him.
I'm trying to picture a curry smoothie. Ain't working.
Anyhow, so yeah, I'll go to Harbor Freight tomorrow and check on the pumps. Yeah, pretty much smoking. She says she used to have a good voice until her larynx got crushed once. But anyhow, Tom Kagai? I have no idea what Tom Kagai is, Chris.
Chris is suggesting exotic foods. Will they work as smoothies?
I don't know.
The world wonders.
She's looking at Avgo Limono and stuff like that too. But anyhow, she'll get through. I say when she's this good, this quick, I'm pretty confident that she'll be fine. Thai coconut chicken soup. Not bad.
Sounds good.
Anyhow, so get more ore this weekend, one way or another. Line up an IBC and a pump. And I should be able to test it out next week. That would be sweet. Thank you so very much, everybody. I appreciate it. What do they call it? Crowdsourcing? It's kind of a weird crowd, but that works fine for me. The coconut is really good. I'm also trying to convince her that just put cream in stuff. You know, regular cream has enormous numbers of calories per volume.
Yeah, but it's not nutritionally very excellent.
Well, right now you're not terribly worried about a balanced diet for a long period of time, little one. The important thing right now is to she hates mushrooms, Chris. She just needs to keep a good caloric intake, a reasonable nutritional intake, and within a couple of weeks, she should be able to get back on more of a normal type diet. But as you can see, she's got energy, and it's just very, very reassuring. So, anyone got any other questions at this point? Not sure exactly what to do. Again, I hadn't done anything the last couple of weeks because I've just been real busy on personal stuff, and Jim is going to be real busy for a while too. I have a feeling. You know how it is. You're working on a project, you got all kinds of things you want to do, and then all of a sudden the money comes through, you got loads of things to do. And one thing different about up here from Arizona is you want to get it done before winter. In Arizona, you can work during the summer. It's unpleasant. You have to change the way you do it at times, like work at night or whatever, but it's doable. Here, no. You actually do get shut down. So you have an indeterminate deadline you're pushing. That makes you really push hard. Okay, Chris. I'm saying just let me know what kind of tests you want me to do with them and how to pre-prep them before running the tests. Not a problem. Right now I'm concentrating on getting more solution and getting that ready for the testing. I'd like to have like 20 or 30 gallons of leach solution that is all blended so that it's all the same stuff. And that way one head assay and we can do a lot of tests and it's only one assay per test. That's a good way to do it if you can, folks, is big sample, blend it real well and split it if it's solids, and then one head assay. It does a lot of work. Okay, Chris. Say, I appreciate all your help. Uh-huh. Winter is coming. Yeah, that's kind of the way it is. I think it's milder here than it is in Wisconsin. Certainly last winter wasn't too bad while we were here. The one thing it does do here that's kind of weird is sometimes it'll snow pretty good, like right now. They say in September you can get 12, 15 inches of snow. It'll melt, but you get hammered. Weird. Whatever. Anyhow, so that's kind of on my plate for the next week or two. Now that Eva's back on her feet and able to take care of herself and such, that's a great relief, because I didn't know how much care she was going to need. And she can take care of herself right now. So it's not bad at all. Anyhow.
Yeah, you got to do some work because Paris says we got bills to pay.
Well, I'm working. Well, he needs to get some cash ahead too for October.
Yeah.
Yep. So, anyhow, any questions? Man, I feel so helpless. And of course, without Jim here, it just doesn't. I don't have all the placer answers like he does. Yeah, can I get your tinfoil hat for a minute, little one?
Yes, you can get my tinfoil hat.
Smoking Joking is sending you flowers there. Oh. Little tight. I agree, Vincent. Okay, Jimmy, I'll keep it in mind. What's 4x8? I don't know. I haven't looked recently. It was pretty expensive, but here it's coming down. But you can just look up Home Depot and Helena and get a good idea. The thing that I have noticed recently that is really peculiar to me, and I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but the whole now Jimmy says 1650 today, and he's in construction, so he should know. The whole vaccine mandate thing to me seems so non-logical, because if the idea is to get people resistant to COVID-19, then we wouldn't be trying to vaccinate people who've recovered from COVID-19, because you're wasting the vaccine. Natural immunity is as good, or looks like maybe a lot better than the vaccine. And there are certain people that are contraindicated to the vaccine and wouldn't really need it. For example, on Steven Crowder, one of the people that works for him, his wife is pregnant. She works from home. She never goes into the company sort of thing. So she's never in contact with anyone else. We have no real data on how safe this is for pregnant women, although what data we have, it doesn't look good. She's got notes from her doctors, both her GP and her obstetrician, saying, no, she shouldn't have the vaccine. And yet they're saying, you will get the vaccine or you will be fired.
By the way, the Secretary of Commerce
Yeah.
today for
Yeah.
Lord Malarkey's administration
Yes.
said that no one is being mandated to get the vaccine. You're
Yeah.
not being forced to get it just because there's a mandate.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not being forced to get a vaccine. You just get fired if you don't get it. But yeah. And it would seem to me that such behavior is really non-logical. There's no need for her to be vaccinated to protect anyone else in the company. She's contraindicated to getting the vaccine. I think they even said she'd had COVID before, but I'm not sure on that one. But so she had lots of reasons not to get it and not one reason to get it. And they were still saying, you get it or you're fired. Now that's just bizarre. So I'm not sure what's going on, but I think everyone should be looking carefully to try and figure out what the real motivations are here, because it doesn't seem public health is the only motivation for sure. Okay. It may not even be the primary motivation, but that would be pure speculation, of course. Actually, smoking, the one I liked was for Jen Psaki. It was Little Red Lying Hood. But something very strange is going on here. They're putting a lot of emphasis on this for some reason, when I don't even think it can be done. For example, let's say you have a company, and like this lady here that works from home and has doctor's excuses. If you require her to get that vaccine, isn't that a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act? Sounds like it to me.
Well, also note that illegal aliens and Afghan refugees are not required to get the vaccine.
Yeah, and illegal aliens aren't required to get it. So there's just some really weird stuff going on. Somebody suggested that perhaps the purpose is just to get everyone so mad to start a fight. Because, say, without any logic behind these things, all they do is cause trouble. Well, maybe that's the purpose. Don't know. But it's very disconcerting now, and I would suggest everyone keep their eyes wide open and their head on a swivel. Something strange is coming down the pike. With reference to the price of gold and such, again, the inflation's looking to be even higher than estimated, etc. I would think gold is going to go up. I suspect the whole societal situation could become more and more unstable.
Oh, and
So
some
be
people
aware.
are starting to remove their money from banks.
Okay.
Not just migrating to local banks, but migrating their money out of banks.
Eva says people are starting to withdraw money from banks. If all are oppressed, then it's non-discrimination. That's a good point, Jeff. So, I say that's something that would not surprise me in the slightest, Doug. 2,200 for gold next year wouldn't surprise me at all. Well, exactly, Patrick. And why would an employer take that kind of risk? These are the sort of things that just under normal circumstances would be considered crazy. So something is definitely out of whack. Not sure what, but I'm very concerned. Also imagine, now, this whole thing that Biden announced he's going to put a mandate out. Have you seen a mandate yet? I haven't either. Announcing you're going to do something is a whole lot different from actually promulgating it. There's a whole bunch of groups that are saying we're going to sue as soon as they publish the regulations. Then we're going to sue them. Until there's a regulation, they can't sue the government to stop it. On the other hand, a private company that tries to follow this policy, boy, it's really setting itself up for a big comeuppance. Douglas, I think it's more than that. Obviously, the guy at the top has got more than one screw loose. But even a stopwatch is twice a day. And so far, they've had a pretty consistent record of doing the worst possible thing. Now, you can't do that consistently without a plan. Yeah, something like that. I agree. I say there's something big going on that my gut tells me. I don't know what. And if I did know, I couldn't even tell you folks. And that's how bizarre things are, because I'd lose my channel. That also tells you something. It's funny. Somebody said, you don't cut a man's tongue out because he's telling a lie. You cut his tongue out because you're afraid he'll tell the truth. You don't censor misinformation. You censor the wrong information, the ones you don't want out there. Because it's real easy to make someone look bad if they're a liar and discredit them. It's when they're telling the truth that you have to shut them up. So, fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. I can't even discuss certain things. But I know that Eva and I don't intend to take the vaccine. And I think that we should be watching places like Israel, which have very high vaccination rates, to see what is. Oh, I saw something else today. Half the COVID cases you see, hospitalizations, are people who are hospitalized for something and then had a positive COVID test. So those numbers are twice what they really are. Keep your eye on the target, gold. Yeah, that's my idea. If you've got a good spot out there that you've been thinking of claiming, I think now might be a good time. You're not going to be able to get permits, but that may change in the not too distant future, either through regulatory changes in terms of the environment, the people running it are going to change, or it just becomes impossible to regulate. Don't know. But say that's that's basically the tinfoil hat report for tonight. And hurts. It's too small. But that's where we're at. Okay. Yeah, I would get ground now. Don't worry too much about anything else. Get the claims in.
Make sure all your paperwork is in.
Yeah, keep your paperwork up. Make sure all that's done properly. Oh, very, very frustrating. Trying to think, is there anything? Oh, I had somebody ask me today, when you're leaching gold, and the gold is in the leach liquid, is it just real small particles or is it actually dissolved? Can it evaporate? Can it settle out? So here's the answer. It is actually dissolved, just like salt in water, okay? It can't settle out because it's in atomic complex form. It's molecular, okay? So it cannot settle. It can be precipitated by certain chemical reactions. It can be precipitated if the water evaporates. Just like if you have salt water and it evaporates, it'll leave the salt behind. But it's not going to settle out of solution. Either there would have to be a chemical change in the solution, or something would have to react with the gold to take it out of solution. Okay? And that's what we're trying to do with the resin. Oh, by the way, Chris, I've got some zinc, some powdered zinc. So one thing I could also try with that solution is just a straight zinc precipitation and see what happens too. I just for fun, I want to try it. The electrolytic cell has been running all this time too. It's down to 3 milliamps at this point, and we'll see. The pregnant pond is pretty low in pH and pretty low in the Eco Goldex. So it may cement okay. Not sure. But say I've also left that electrolytic cell just to see what happens. What the heck? But what we're talking about in terms of precipitating the gold is if in certain conditions, when you add certain chemicals, notably powdered zinc is the one usually used, it will actually turn into a zinc complex, and then the gold becomes powdered gold out of solution. It cements onto the surface of the zinc, kind of like electroplates the surface of the zinc, but without electricity. And that was the old way they used to get it out of cyanide solution. It's a little more expensive. It has some other issues that carbon doesn't, so they switched to carbon. And now resins have certain advantages over carbon. So many cases, even with cyanide, they're using resin now. With the thiosulfate leaches, you almost have to use resin because carbon really doesn't like the thio complex of gold very well. So that may answer some questions some of you had. Yeah, that's right, Douglas. If the IBC idea works well, then the next bottleneck will be the grinding circuit. And the next bottleneck that we're going to run into real fast there will be ore supply, depending upon what grade we decide we want to run. If we can make 1/3 of an ounce to the ton work, we've probably got 50 tons of it sitting there in a dump. But there, the idea would be to start taking bottom and reworking the middle decline. By the time I travel 15 feet downward in that, I should be in ore. Not sure exactly how long it'll take me to get there, what the ore waste dilution is going to be, but it's one of those things that should be able to mine a fair amount of ore out of that in a fairly straightforward manner by taking the decline angle and steepening it. If you take this top here and you do like that, then you see that wedge there becomes ore that you recover. And that may be exactly what we do to get more ore going. And that would be kind of fun to get actually into mining. The extractive metallurgy is interesting, but it's been kind of frustrating too. And there's something basic about just tearing rock apart. Fairly mindless work, and it's kind of relaxing in its own way. Physiologically, you're exerting yourself, but mentally, you're just kind of cruising, or at least I am. And once I get that collar retimbered and the first 10 feet sliced, then it should be pretty routine at that point. So it should be pretty fun. Anyhow, that's where we're looking right now. Does anyone have any questions on anything at this point? Either general theory or what I'm doing or what the plan is, etc. Good night, Douglas. Because if we're moving 1 ton a day at 1 ounce per ton, that's nice. If we're mining 1 ton a day, hauling it to the mill and processing it in 2 days, then that's still not too bad. But I'm really, really happy with that IBC idea. I think we can make that work pretty easily. I'll have to do a little research on the trash pump from Harbor Freight idea and go from there. What do you think, Chris, about a 2-inch pump? Or do you think 1.5 inches would be enough? I think maybe 1.5 inches, but start with a 2. And if it's a lot more than you need, then you can always downsize. It's easier to throttle back than get it to go more than its capacity. Will you be showing any of the mine workings main story? Yes. When I get actually up to mining there, I'll be showing the actual workings, what I'm doing, how I'm retimbering, how I'm slicing the bottom and establishing the new gradient, how I'm my ladder track system and head frame, etc. And go from there. I know the outlet on the IBC is 2-inch, but I'm talking about the actual pump itself. That's going to be a separate plumbing. It's not going to be using the outlet on that. What do you predict this winter will be like? Early or late start? I think the experts are saying a late start, but I'm not sure. Well, we can look at that on Harbor Freight's website, I guess. Well, yeah, and I'd like to have been doing that, gold miner. Unfortunately, the The leaching has gotten a little more complicated than I would have liked. I should have been back mining already, but I hope my ladder track system works pretty easy and efficiently. If it does, I think you'll all like it. And it's pretty modular and easy to install, remove, very versatile. It'll go anywhere from, you go horizontal to vertical with it. Although horizontal, you wouldn't need the rungs nearly as closely spaced, but you'd probably just use the same thing anyway. Anyhow, so that's the evil plan at this point. And with any luck, in about a month or so, I'll actually be mining. Yeah, I would think, I'm thinking a 2-inch pump would probably work. We'll throttle it back. Yeah, truth, but from what I've heard from the locals in this area that we're working, we'll probably be able to access it through November. It may snow, but it'll tend to melt off, and then you can get back in and stuff like that. It'll probably be towards the end of November before it snows and stays there for the rest of the winter. And that would be good. The leaching chemical should leach the silver, and I think it also leaches platinum group metals too. Chris, you got any insight on that? Nice, Forrest. Forrest says, glad to hear Eva's doing well. Just turned a small profit off my claim.
Nice,
yep.
Forrest.
Yeah, I was thinking of throttling it back, basically nozzling it down so you increase the velocity at the corners. And then we could have a throttle right after the pump if needed to moderate that. Yeah, Chris says he thinks it will leach PGMs to some extent. Not sure how effective or how quickly. Silver, it should do fine. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but I'm pretty sure it should do fine with silver. It's the platinum and palladium that it may be kind of slow and inefficient at, although it might not. I don't know. I'm not that familiar with this particular chemistry yet. Working on it, Vincent. Working on it. No, I'm hoping to get a submersible and just actually, take a cross piece and hang it in the top of the IBC, and that way it'll have plenty. How much does the chemical cost you per ton? Right now, we're looking at approximately $10 to $15 per ton of ore processed. The chemical itself is like $3 per pound, $3 per kilo, I think. So it's not a problem in terms of a limiting factor. Typically, if you don't have a recoverable $300 to $500 a ton minimum on a micro scale operation, you're not going to make it. And so $10 a ton for chemicals is not bad at all. So it's perfectly doable in terms of chemical cost. Yeah, your reagent costs aren't bad at all. We'll see what it takes in the resin recovery and stripping end. Ooh, if there was a lot of gold in the galena, you still probably, if it's got a lot of galena in it, unoxidized, it may be crystal locked pretty badly, Jimmy. On the other hand, I don't know what the consumption of the chemicals. The galena might be, might just eat up all your chemicals. Chris will probably have some insight on that. But if you've got a high-grade galena ore, it'd probably be best crushing and concentrating and shipping, and getting a credit for your gold and silver from the smelter. Not sure what silver might do in the near future, but
I'm expecting $40 by next year.
Eva's expecting 40 by next year. I think everything is really unpredictable right now. If everything goes fairly much like normal, $40 an ounce. If things go sideways, who knows?
Well, bear in mind, everyone, what you're paying in your local dealer with premium is the actual price of metals right now.
Yeah.
The market bears no relation to the reality.
Vincent, where we're specifically mining, Montana B, it's not a lead silver ore. It's basically iron, oxidized iron, and it has about equal amounts silver and gold in it. But the ore itself is running like 25 to 33% iron, and not much in the way of base metals. Now they may have leached out. They may be down below us. There are a lot of base metals in this area, but it very much depends on your particular ore body. I believe there's a lead silver mine about a mile away. The gold side of IOCG type, it looks like. Have no idea, Chris. I don't know what that means. But yeah, it's the particular ore that we're dealing with is not iron oxide, copper, gold. Yeah, again, and some of that may have leached out and be down lower. There may be some really interesting stuff in the super gene enrichment levels if we ever get there. The rock is good. It wouldn't take too much effort to continue those declines to substantial depths. In this particular area, the oxidized zone generally extends about 150 to 200 feet. So we'll have to see. We have one of our new claims has an old lead silver mine on it that was running. It had lead, I don't know if it was zinc or tin. It was like lead and zinc and copper, and silver value is better than 20 ounces to the ton. So that's why we picked it up. But there's some complexities of exploiting it at the current time, so we just basically picked it up and are sitting on it. Montana B is the one we've got access to. We've got metallurgy on. We've got apparently exposed ore bodies and stuff like that. Yes, there will be sulfides deeper. Whether or not there's enrichment at the top of the sulfides is a good question. In the district 5 miles away roughly, once they got into the sulfide zone, the extraction became so difficult that they were no longer profitable. So they did not mine into the sulfides to any extent in that area.
Wow.
She said, wow. What?
AOC wore an exclusive designer tax the rich dress to the Metropolitan Museum of Art Gala. Now, a ticket to this gala costs $30,000. A table costs $275,500. That dress probably costs 10 grand. And she was talking about the fact that elitists are such terrible people and wore a dress that says tax the rich.
Did you guys all hear that?
And by the way, nobody was wearing masks.
What's new? Yeah, hypocrisy seems to be pretty rampant nowadays too.
Oh, and she's selling that catchphrase on sweatshirts for $58, by the way.
Wow. I like the t-shirt that says, I'm pretty sure my last words will be, fuck, that didn't work. These people seem to be completely incapable of self-examination, Chris. It's just amazing. The lack of self-awareness is just shocking. But anyhow, so it would be nice if we can extend the declines, the lower decline in the pack rat structure, I think has the possibility of continuing into more ore. But the middle decline, I really have no idea what kind of shape that ore chute may be. And what may be exploitable and what may not be. The pack rat structure is highly variable, but it looks okay. It's going to be confined here and it's going to be very pockety. So if you just keep driving down that decline, especially if you can get enough gold to at least pay for driving the decline, then you might be able to hit another pretty big pocket. But they stopped about 15 feet below where they stoped out. Yeah, Truth Seeker said he read the same article with pictures earlier today. So say it's hard to tell what will happen. And also, if the price of gold changes dramatically, that changes the situation dramatically. I would not be horribly shocked to see gold go to 5,000 an ounce. Yeah, if you can just pay your expenses and keep driving decline, sooner or later you should hit something, as long as you're breaking even on the way. The problem is if you're losing money on the way, then it can get pretty ugly in the long run. But that's the hope, and we shall see what we shall see. But right now, it looks, like we should be there. That's probably through next summer. After that, we're probably going to have to find some more ore somewhere, either there or somewhere else. Start with a big fortune. Ha ha. I've heard that one before, Chris. The situation is interesting, but we're developing the technology, the skills, the expertise to deal with these more challenging ores. I can already deal with the simple ore, the simple gravity extractable ore. So this improves our toolbox, and we will see. Yeah, these these prices don't look honest to me. And when markets break manipulation control, they tend to get pretty extreme. They seem to go far and fast. No, Jeff, I haven't heard of metal separating with radio waves. I can imagine a couple ways you might do it. They all seem fairly expensive to me. So how useful they would be is a different question. A practical solution has to be scalable, economic, and competitive. If there's a better way or a cheaper way of doing it, it's not going to work. You're not going to make any money. If you can't make a profit on it at base, like it costs more than the valuable mineral you'd be getting, then it's not going to work. Forrest, I don't hear too many bank robberies in Venezuela. What are you robbing? It's hard to run fast with a wheelbarrow. Yes, Argonaut. That's what we're doing right now. The next dumps we'd start on are half the value per ton as this, so it starts getting marginal. And then there's an even bigger dump, which is again half the value of the other stuff. So it's definitely a way to go. There's also some other stuff that we've got located that has potential. Again, just because something's there doesn't mean you can get to it, get it out relatively easily. Another thing that we're planning on potentially doing is hand sorting the dump materials. We might be able to get another couple of tons that way. And so, that is an idea. Again, we're focusing more on developing an effective and efficient milling cycle right now. But in order to do that, we have to extract ore to mill. So it becomes, doing a lot of different things at once, and that can become somewhat challenging. But I don't see too much of a problem. And now that Eva's health isn't nearly as time consuming as it was. And I say she loves being out in the field. So if we're going out in the field for a couple of days a week to get ore, and then I'm at the ranch a couple of days a week processing the ore, she'd be happy with that. And say this right now is, to a great extent, systems development time, because if you have developed a general purpose system, then you have a tool that you can throw at different projects. And we have other people around the area that have, there's just, thousands of mines within 100 miles of here. Some of which, from actual personal reporting, are pretty good. Somebody, I haven't seen him this week, locally was saying he was, running multi-ounce to the ton in the dumps. I agree, Truth Seeker. I'm very happy about Eva too. But if we have the techniques and the tools, then we can apply it to many projects. I know a guy that has a dump that, I don't know, we just kind of guesstimated at 500 to 1,000 tons, and the sample we took ran an ounce. You know, so that's where we're working on doing here. You can with a quad, Jimmy. You can't with a pickup, but you can with a quad. The middle decline is 80 feet, high line to where the quad can drive right up to. So that's doable. We've actually built a high line and tested it, and it'll drop full buckets of ore down to the quad directly from the collar of the middle decline. So that's not a problem. And it's an established road already. It's not like we'll have to build one. It would be pretty easy to, give me a D6 with a 6-way blade and an hour and a half, and I could make that road easy to drive in a pickup truck. But yeah, it's accessible. Some of this other stuff isn't as accessible, and that's some of the problems with today's permitting environment. Another one that we have that had some decent assays on the dump, I'm just guessing like 400 or 500 feet of high line to get there, and there is no road to it. So to build a road for a quad, you'd have to redress a road to another mine and then come along a ridge. It could be done without a permit, not legally. So I say that's part of the issue. What can be done technically versus what can be done legally is different. You're welcome, Adam. And I say there's other dumps like that one I just mentioned that was 500 to 1,000 tons. And again, one grab sample does not tell you what's in a dump. Okay. We tried to grab from a variety of areas. We might have got one really good rock in the sample for all we know. But, 500 or 1,000 tons that you can drive a pickup through, that's interesting. Absolutely. So again, that's why we're focusing on this system. Whether it'll be profitable at Montana B in the long run with all the capital expenditures, research and development costs, all my time and everything to get to that point, maybe not. As far as we can tell, Jimmy, no, they are not giving permits at all. That is correct. They just basically said, it's taking us forever to review it, because we got, a little old lady in Washington that's got to go through everything by hand, or something to that effect. It's basically just stalling. They've prohibition through inaction. How's that sound? Yeah. Yeah, Wolfman, but we're trying to do it on the cheap. That's part of the challenge and part of what's interesting about it. It's been fun. Well, Adam, if you've got, I'm already doing that, Forrest. If you're super rookie, first thing I do is look around in your area for like a prospecting club or something like that, because you can meet a lot of people real fast. And that's really useful when you're first getting started. One of the problems getting started is you don't have anything to practice on. And so it makes it difficult. These guys can point you to some areas. As a club, they probably have claims you can go work on and stuff like that. So just to get started, it makes it a lot easier. The other thing that the novice usually doesn't understand is the importance of sampling, not just going out there and starting moving dirt, taking a test, making sure there's something there before moving a lot of dirt, and such as that. Whether it's placer or hard rock, that principle still applies. As a first-time prospector, I presume you're going to do placer first, i.e. in sand and gravels as opposed to hard rock, because it's substantially simpler, easier, and cheaper to do. Just as an exercise, you could just pick a fist-sized rock, try and turn that to dust by hand and see how long that takes. I have a crusher that can turn that to sand and dust in seconds, but it's $9,000. So that's why. The hard rock gold is substantially more complex and expensive to get started on. Now, that doesn't mean you can't find a hard rock deposit and exploit it at your leisure. If you're looking, say, at hard rock mines, you want to really look at some of my videos, especially in the early ones, on how to sample. And then you're going to have actual assays run at a lab. And that's about $40 to $45 in small numbers. If you're doing big numbers, you can send it to big labs, but then it's going to take you 1 to 2 months to get your results back. Oh, no problem, Adam. That's what we're here for. That's what the live stream is to a great extent about. And most of the people here, with the exception of some really smart Alex, really like to help people too, you know? And even the smart Alex like it, but they just do it in a kind of left-handed way. But so if you ever have a specific question too, it's good to ask. But if you're just getting started, find a local prospecting club for, I don't know what it is now. In Tucson, it was $50. Okay, Jimmy, let me write this down. Yeah, if it's just a 2-day job, I should be able to work it in before the snow without a problem. I agree, Forrest. Everyone likes, well, not everyone, but most people like to show off a little bit and things like that. It's just like fishing. You know, if you go to a fishing hole and you ask somebody, what are they biting on, or how do you catch them here? Most fishermen will tell you, you know, what usually works. Now, they may not show you the best hole or the candy bait, but they'll tell you how to catch fish there, you know? And so it's the same kind of thing. It's kind of a brotherhood, camaraderie sort of thing. So just, you know, I agree with, I forget who it was, Goldstream. Yeah, just get out there doing it. You can also practice panning using just, you know, dirt, sand and gravel, whatever, and metal shavings or bird shot or something like that, just to get some of the techniques down. If you're going to use bird shot, though, take a hammer and mash them up a little bit, because natural gold nuggets are not round. Oh, absolutely, Goldstream. You'll almost never make a profit fishing. In other words, getting it cheaper than that. But when Eva was in the hospital in Missoula, the river, the Clark Fork of the Columbia River, goes 50 yards the other side of the road from the hospital. And I caught 7 fish the whole time, but it was a way to help take my mind off of stuff too. You know? Okay, Jimmy. I say, we'll see what we can do. But that was nice. Caught one nice brown trout, about that big. It looks bigger on the screen. It was about 14 inches. How's that? Is that better? You know? Yeah, Adam, and the nice thing is I like being out in nature. I really do. And it gives you a good excuse. And you can always, if there's the possibility of gold, you can always whip out a pan. I mean, in Missoula there, I just whipped out my fishing rod because I like to fish too. And exactly, Adam. And the other thing you can do, depending on how you're fishing, you put some bait out there. If they're not hitting very fast, you can go panning. And it's easy to set down a pan and pick up a rod. Absolutely. So it's a double deal. You know, you can do two things that can both be fun at the same time. Absolutely. If the fish are biting hard, you know, pretty rapidly, I'm happy to use a lure. But if they're not, I like to just throw out a bait and just kick back and wait for my rod to twitch. It's very relaxing. Yeah, I agree with Forrest there, Adam. Pay attention to the old guys. Yep. Be careful. You don't mention whether you've spent much time in the outdoors, Adam, but use caution. It's not like being in a city. The dangers are different. They're usually more just plain physical danger. You don't fall down and break your leg. Yeah, Jeff. And if you notice, there's a comment on there from me, actually 2 comments. And one of which was, yeah, I was like, you know, real close to where you're standing there. Wilderness first aid course. Get some knowledge in your risks and situated. Weather can be deadly simply because there could be no place to hide from it. So there's a lot of things. If you're not a country person, you're going to need to learn a lot of things for safety, but that's part of the fun. Yeah, don't leave the first aid kit at the truck. Absolutely. There's just a number of things that, you know, makes it so much more interesting. Personal emergency beacon, under certain circumstances, that makes a lot of sense. Now, you notice how everyone here is trying to give you good advice? That's typical. That is typical because, you know, Adam, everyone around here has been a newbie at one time or another. If we didn't like this, we wouldn't be doing it. You know? So, yeah, I mean, Chris is talking about personal locator beacons, yeah, two-way texting and stuff. A lot of things. Oh, excellent. Well, good, Adam. Then you've got a lot of the basic skills if you've been in outdoors a lot. Yeah, I like being the. here's another thing that I'd like to recommend. If you're not involved with a woman at this time, you're going to need a woman that either likes doing what you're doing, or at least camping and stuff, or someone who doesn't mind if you're gone a lot. I like the first. My wife really enjoys being out camping. Now, we have a little camper, so we have a nice warm, dry bed to retreat to. I can cook inside it if needed, things like that. So we have a nice, snug little den to retreat to when we want. And it is so nice to have someone you can share stuff with. You'll see on some of my videos, I don't know if you've gone back, but I mean, go back to last summer and you'll see her down in the mines with me, on a rope too. And that makes it fun. If you don't have, a woman that wants to do that stuff, find somebody that likes to do similar stuff, because it's usually a lot safer, but it's also usually more fun if you got a buddy to share it with, And let's see, Forrest says, make sure your rig's in top-notch shape. Forrest, top-notch shape? Plenty of spare parts and tools. Yeah, that, Forrest. Yep. The Bago's running good. It's running smoother than it has in a long time. And it's a 76 Chevy, 4x4 with a utility bed and a camper. But let's say it's not super reliable, but I got enough spare parts and tools I can usually fabric cobble a way home. Last time I couldn't. I just had to have it towed, but I got towing insurance. That's the right attitude. And make sure it comes natural to her. Okay, don't try and change people. People don't really change that easily, Just find someone who likes to do what you like to do. Take your time. Don't rush it. Yeah, Goldstream, I think it's fine. I think the head bolts just backed off a bit. And the torque wrench also wasn't torquing to the proper spec. Turns out I have to crank it up to 73 on the handle to get it to torque to 65. So that might have been part of the problem initially. But yeah, Jim helped me get it done. It worked fine. And I say it's running nice and smooth. The direct reading gauge from AutoZone sucks. I mean, at least I presume when it's been sitting for 2 days and you get in it and you go to hit the starter and it says 195 degrees on the direct reading temperature gauge, it's probably inaccurate. So anyhow, just have fun. Life is for living. And there's no sense existing if you're not living. Find out what you like to do. Find out what makes you happy. Then find a way to do it. Yep. Well, Forrest, you can also ask some trick questions. You know. What are we at now? 8:30? Yeah, it's a little early, but I'm getting kind of tired. Adam, thank you for jumping in and asking that question. It's those kind of questions which can take off, and we have an hour and a half discussion easily sometimes. And you never know on this live stream. We've had people from all over the world. I think last week was it India?
Yeah.
That asked some questions. Bolivia, Algeria, all kinds of stuff. So it can be fun. Yeah, Goldstream. A new truck. I mean, a really new truck. Holy crap! That would be so stressful. No, another scratch. Ah! With mine, it's kind of nice. It's just rattle can paint job. And there's a spot on my hood that's rusty that I probably should have painted a year and a half ago. Oh, we got several from Australia, Terry. Yep, we got a number from Australia, several from Canada. I think Goldstream's from Canada, Goldstream's from Canada, I'm sure. And Gruber and a couple others are from Australia. So yeah, it's fun. It really is. Don't worry, Adam. I really enjoy it. I think even Eva's getting to where she enjoys it. I know Jim does. He would be here, except, he's got some serious business to do, and he's working hard. So, it's a good thing, but we may not see too much of Jim for the next month or two. Yeah, Goldstream. Jim knows a lot about placer. I don't know that much about placer, but Jim does. He's been a professional placer miner, i.e. running wash plants and stuff for the last 10 years. Currently, he's working on a hard rock, copper, probably got some gold and silver in there too, but it's got a lot of copper project. And this is potentially some serious mining, like, mid-sized mine. And so I think, Jim's really got to rush because his stuff's over 6,000 feet, Jeff and Robert. And he's really rushing the snow. They're working hard to beat the snow and get everything they can done before then. I'm not nearly so bad on that, which is nice. But come this wintertime, I've got a incipient cataract in this eye that needs to be taken care of, and a hernia to have repaired. Nothing major, but off season when you do the maintenance. Panning gold is the hardest work you can do for sub-minimum wage. Not sure. It's definitely one of them. So, anyhow, anyone else got any questions? Thanks for jumping in, Adam. That was nice. Oh, dearie. Usual question, where's the gold? There. Oh. That Gold Bay pay dirt had quite a lot of gold in it, I tell you. Yeah. If nobody has any more questions here or whatever, I think we'll probably call it a night. I'm still recovering from this week. I slept well, had nights over there, but this just wrung me out. I'm so good at, do you want to see her resort dog? Want to give everyone a nighty-night little one?
Yep.
And thank you all for your prayers and your support. You want to sit down?
See, I am in one piece, kind of, sort of. And this drain comes out on Wednesday. In the meantime, we have to strip it, and it's really kind of gross and weird. It's one of those things, you know.
So anyhow, she's feeling uncomfortable, but not sickly or anything at this point. That's my wife, Adam.
And I have to sleep sitting up, which sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you look around last summer, you'll see her in her pink hard hat with kitten ears. Everyone's saying good night, little one.
Good night.
Yep. Yes, I am, Forrest. Thank you, Wolfman. Thank you, Mr. Virtue. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your support. It's very much appreciated. And I didn't realize how much I was afraid. But I was hiding it well, even for me. But when the doctor called and said that he thought he got all the cancer, and then she called and I could hear her voice and everything, it hit me like a rock. Okay. I'm glad I only had 100 yards to walk to go to the camper that night. Patrick says, hang in there. She will.
I'm working on it.
So I'll say I'm still kind of exhausted from that. It was more stressful than I anticipated. Yep. And we do. It's like a family. Adam, if you're still listening, this is kind of like a family or a bunch of buddies around the campfire. It's really a special little community. I'm looking at some of the other channels. Let's see, Prospector Trip and what is it? Flower Gold Wizards and stuff. And they're just getting a lot more views for video and stuff. And I don't care. Because honestly, if there was 5 times what we've got now, how can I keep up? I'm happy. Okay. And thank you guys for helping with that. Yeah, it would be nice to do that, Goldstream. Have a get together someday. That would be great. hopefully someday I'll have a really, working mine and everything where it's, everyone can come by and like that. And, probably would have to do it kind of small groups or whatever, because I don't think everyone can get here at one time or whatever. But that would be really great. Anyhow, I just want to thank you all. It's really been a help. And it's so nice to see how much you care about Eva. And I appreciate that. Yep. She's pretty tough, Forrest. Yeah, the question is, Stephen, how would you get back to Canada? They wouldn't let you in. COVID, Night, Mr. Lodak. All righty, folks. If there are no more questions, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you all again very much from the bottom of my heart. No more questions, going twice. Which test do you need to pay for, Stephen? Oh, I see the COVID test. Okay. Everyone's saying good night, little one.
Good night, everybody.
I agree, Truth Seeker. And I'm happy with what we got. I don't care to grow it anymore if it's going to do anything negative to the quality. So, and good night, Chris. Thank you for all your help. Take care.